These are the 10 books that surprised me the most in 2024. Hi friends, if you're new here, my name's Michaela and I love books. This is only my second YouTube video, so I'm having so much fun with doing like the end of year wrap-ups, and I thought I could do my top 10 most surprising books of 2024, as actually there was quite a lot. These are books that I might have gone into with quite low expectations. I wasn't really expecting a lot from them, and they absolutely blew me away. There's also a couple in here where I've read books by the authors and not liked them previously, but these ones absolutely shocked me. So it just shows that even if you don't like one book by a certain author, you shouldn't write them off. Let's get into it. They're not going to be in any order. Specifically, I'm just going to pick them at random and tell you a bit about them and tell you why they surprised me. Sally Hepworth's The Good Sister. I also read Darling Girls by this author this year, and I absolutely loved that book so much. It very nearly made it into my top 10 books of the year. I had this book sat on my bookshelf for the longest time, and nothing in me wanted to pick it up until somebody said that the main character gives Strange Sally Diamond vibes. And also, now I've read it, I can also say if you like Molly the Maid, you would also like this book. In this book, you follow Fern, who works in a library, and she doesn't really have anybody except her sister Rose. They are like two peas in a pod. You can't separate them, and Fern would do anything for her sister, including apparently getting pregnant because her sister is struggling to get pregnant so she can give the baby to her sister. As you're reading the book, you realise that Fern may have neurodivergent tendencies, and you just can't help but feel so protective of her. Something I've come to realise with Sally Hepworth's books is she writes real character-driven stories. I've read The Soulmate and I really didn't like that book. That's the first book I actually read from Sally Hepworth, but since then I've read The Good Sister and Darling Girls, and every single book has been really character-driven rather than plot. So if you're more in it for the plot, I don't think you'd like her, but if you like vibes, Sally Hepworth could be a girl. I also wouldn't really class them as thrillers. The ones that I've read, I would say that they're more family dramas versus thrillers. So I think if you go into it expecting a fast-paced thriller, you'd also be let down. And now I want to read Sally Hepworth's whole backlist. Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Caitlin Doherty is a non-fiction memoir about Caitlin's time working in a funeral home. Now, I'm not a non-fiction girly. I don't typically read non-fiction. I say every year, one of my reading goals every single year is I'm going to read more non-fiction, and I never do. But I am so glad I picked this up in 2024. I am a morbid girly. I love anything to do with death, apparently. Another non-fiction book I read and absolutely loved, which is what led me to pick this up, was Dr. Richard Shepard's Unnatural Causes. He was a forensic pathologist, and I found that book so interesting that I just automatically knew that like the subject matter in this I would find interesting. Not only is it about Caitlin's time working in a funeral home, it's also teaches you a lot of history on how different cultures deal with death and religious practices that different cultures have, and I found that so interesting. So I actually feel like I learned some stuff while I was reading it as well. When I picked this book up, I didn't realise that Caitlin Doherty is the Caitlin Doherty from Ask a Mortician, the YouTube channel, which I always used to watch, and I didn't put two and two together until I googled the author, and then she came up and I was like, oh my god. The audiobook for this is actually really good as well. Caitlin narrates it, so I feel like I like non-fiction typically because the author does usually narrate the books, and I just feel like they know how they want their books to come across, you know. A romance in my top 10 most surprising books of 2024, and not just that, a straight romance. The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston actually got 5 stars from me. I absolutely love this book. The lighting is like completely changing because it was gone from being torrential rain to now sunny. Hopefully that is a bit better. I read The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston in 2023, and I also love that book. Ashley Poston writes romances with magical realism, and I think that's why I like them so much. I think it's the magical realism element of it. I'm trying to justify myself why I love a straight romance so much, apparently. This follows Clementine as she moves into an apartment, and one day she comes home from work and there's a strange man in her kitchen, and she's like, what are you doing here? And it's a time loop situation. So he was there 7 years prior. It's called the 7-year slip, Michaela. And yeah, it was just so cute, so fun. I loved it, and I may have even shed a tear. Don't be telling everyone. I actually read a novel love story by Ashley Poston in 2024 as well, and sadly I didn't love it, and that's the first of Ashley Poston's books that I've not loved, but you can't win them all, can you? So I'm excited to see what she comes out with next. This Family Lies by J.M. Cannon. J.M. Cannon is an indie self-published thriller author who deserves so much more recognition. No pun intended, but this book starts out with a bang, where Iris and her husband are shot in the head while they're sleeping. Iris's husband dies, but she survives, but now has like no memory of anything. But her husband's family are like mega rich, take her under their wing, but she feels like they're not telling her the truth about everything, so she's trying to work it out. This just had like rich Southern people drama, and something I love in books is rich people drama, because I just can't relate, so I just feel like they're all a bit wild, aren't they, sometimes. All of J.M. Cannon's books are also on Kindle Unlimited. I've read Blood Oranges by this author as well, and oh my god, I think about that book all the time. I read it I think in 2023, and I still think about it and can remember every detail. It was that good. This also has a sequel, which is also out, and I'm definitely going to be reading that in 2025. Talking of rich people drama, we've got The Heiress by Rachel Hawkins. If you were to describe 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but as a thriller, you would birth this baby. I've recommended this to so many people, and every single person has agreed with me, so that's all I'm saying. In this book, North Carolina's richest woman, Ruby, has just passed away. So obviously that means her inheritance is up for grabs. And in this book, we get letters from Ruby explaining her upbringing and all of the husbands she's had, which is what leads me to compare it to the 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. And then we've also got loads of family drama, as her son is adopted and he doesn't want anything to do with the rest of the family. If you like family drama and with rich people, you will love this book. Something I absolutely love in books is when they have little plot and it is just pure character development, and that's exactly what The First Day of Spring by Nancy Tucker is. This book is a bit dark, I'm not gonna lie. It starts out where we're following Chrissy, who is 8 years old, and she has just unalived a little boy, but she loved it. It's then dual timeline, and we're then following Chrissy 15 years later, as she is now actually a mum herself. Like I said, there is very little plot in this book, and I think people get disappointed when they go into it expecting that. To me, it read like a memoir. I mean, I hope it's not real, but I just think that it was just the most interesting conversation about nature versus nurture and how your childhood can have an impact on who you become to be. That's a bit deep, isn't it? But yeah, no, it's a great book, and if you like character-driven thriller books that are quite dark, you would like this. She describes killing the boy as a fizzing sherbet feeling in her belly. I love reading from new authors because you never know what you're going to get. So when we picked out Dorothy Coomson's Every Smile You Fake for mine and my friends' in-person book club, I was so excited. What are you talking about? Books? You want to be on YouTube? So when I read the book and absolutely loved it, and I messaged my friend Emma, who I run the book club with, and she also said she loved it, I couldn't wait to go to book club and discuss this with everyone. And imagine my surprise when we're sat at book club and we go around the table and everybody says a little bit of what they thought of the book, and every single person hated it. And I'm not even exaggerating, like they all hated it apart from me and Emma. So I don't know what that says about us, but take it with a pinch of salt, and I would still suggest you read this book. In this book, we follow Kaz, who is a therapist, and one day she gets in a car and there's a baby left on the back seat of her car, and she's like, what the? There's a note asking her to take care of him, and that's it. She's like, whose baby is this? I just thought Kaz, the main character, was such a strong woman, and I found the story so interesting. There was a little bit that was cringe, where we got like extracts of like YouTube videos, and like it was always starting out with, hey, it's your lady Brandy, and I was like, oh no, I don't like it. But if you can see past that, then yeah, it's worth it. It's also part of a sequel. The next one comes out in February, and I'm really excited to read the next one, despite what everybody at book club says. The reason that the next one was the most surprising to me, or shocked me the most in 2024, was because it's got the worst cover to ever exist in the history of book covers. God, it actually makes me mad when I have to sit and look at it. I am going to have to get the American cover. I can't do it. I literally can't do it. But regardless, this Listen for the Lie by Amy Tintera is actually one of the best audiobooks I've ever listened to. So maybe don't buy a physical copy, just buy the audiobook, because audio is the best way to consume this book anyway. I started listening to this just off the cuff one day while I was at work, and I just thought I'll listen to it and see what I think. I listened to the whole audiobook in one day. I couldn't stop. Lucy was accused of unaliving her best friend. However, she can't remember if she did it or not. And like, she's not lying. She genuinely can't remember if she did it or not. There wasn't enough evidence to convict her, so she got away with it, but like, her name is tarnished. People think that she definitely did do it. And now a podcaster has just come on the scene, and he's going to start looking into the case to see whether Lucy did actually do it or not. So while we've got like the normal thriller plot, I can't explain to you how funny this book was. This has some of the funniest characters I think I've read in a thriller book, especially Lucy's nan. If you've read this book, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you haven't, she is the most amazing, funny character, like genuinely funny. Some of the one-liners in this book, I can't stop thinking about. Like I said, do it on audio, don't buy the ugly cover, but oh yeah. What actually, this should have been in my top 10 of the year. It should have. I didn't give it 5 stars when I was reading it, but it is definitely a 5-star book. I was being way too harsh. I don't know what I was expecting when I picked up Adele Park's First Wife Shadow, but I definitely wasn't expecting to love it as much as I did. This is actually the first book I've read from Adele Parks, but I think she's got quite a lot of thriller books out. This, for example, is blurbed by Lisa Jewell, T.M. Logan, Richard Osman. Karen Slaughter has blurbed this book. We follow Emma, who is a rich, powerful, got a really, really good job. And she hasn't really had time for relationships before, but she meets this guy called Matthew, and she falls for him very quickly when he reveals that his first wife actually died. Obviously, he's a widow, and Emma feels like she's living in the first wife's shadow. This again had rich people drama, something I clearly love. And it was just so twisty, I couldn't put it down. I read it in 2 days, and when I wasn't reading it, I had the audiobook because I just needed to know what happened. This is a thriller book done right. Honestly, I got no criticisms. And honestly, I look back on my ratings, like I think I gave this 4 stars, and I'm like, this was not a 4-star book. Sometimes I'm really harsh with my ratings, but I think you need time to sit on them and time to reflect. And it goes the opposite way as well. Sometimes I rate a book really highly, and then afterwards I think, no, actually, it needs to be lower than that. So take what I say with a pinch of salt. Like I said, this is the first book that I've read from Adele Park. So if you have any other recommendations of books that you think I need to pick up from her, please let me know. The next book I'm going to talk to you about, I actually gave the author's last book 1 star. So I didn't have very high hopes going into Every Move You Make by C.L. Taylor. And I actually went to an author signing with C.L. Taylor and Lisa Jewell. So honestly, I don't think if I hadn't gone to that author signing to see Lisa Jewell, I would have picked this up. But wow, this is an amazing thriller. I read quite a lot of thriller books, so finding plots that aren't overdone is really hard. Let's be real. There's only so many plots out there. So to find a plot that is unique, when that happens, This follows 5 friends who are all being stalked. So to protect themselves, they have set up a WhatsApp group where they all check in on each other to check that they're still alive, basically, and just look out for each other as the police doesn't really want to help them. And in the first chapter, one of them literally dies. She literally dies in the first chapter by her stalker. So obviously now they're even more terrified than what they was before. So they decide to become the stalkers. So they start stalking their stalkers so they can keep an eye on them and know where they are at all times. And I just thought that was so different. Like usually like stalking is quite a common theme in thriller books, but stalkies becoming the stalkers is not. And CL Taylor actually said that she was a victim of stalking herself, which is where she got the inspiration from this. And I just think that's really brave that she's put her own trauma, if you like, into the book. And I think you can feel that like she really does know what she's talking about. They are my top 10 most surprising books of 2024. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and I shall see you next time. If you're still here, leave me a comment with your most surprising book of 2024.